Hi guys, thank you for coming out. I'd like to just express my appreciation for you guys investing some time tonight to come out and hear some of my thoughts and comments on this topic that I'll be sharing. This is an informative speech, so ultimately by the end of this, I hope that I can, through the research that I've done, I hope that I can inform a lot of you on this topic, and by the end of it, I hope I can extend an invitation to you guys and get you excited and have a desire and drive to move forward and make a difference in the world doing what you can. So to begin, I'd like to introduce my topic. It's the opioid crisis. It's a huge epidemic that we're facing nationwide right now. I'm 23 years old, and I think of all of the times that I've driven, whether it was for work or fun, whatever it was, through Utah, and they have all those billboards, and I just noticed it in Utah. I don't know why, but I notice all these billboards that talk about the opioid crisis or this epidemic that they're facing. Throughout my entire life, the years that I've seen those billboards, it never really struck me. I never really realized, or it never really hit me until I started to educate myself, inform myself, and do my own research on how crazy of a problem this is in our day and age. So, with that being said, through this speech, I'm going to begin by sharing some of the effects that it has on us Americans, some of the long-term effects, some of the short-term effects. Then I'll move on by sharing some of the numbers and facts and statistics, whether money that deals with money or lives or just the amount of people, percentages. I'll be sharing some numbers because I'm kind of a numbers guy. I like to have things put in perspective through numbers. Once I'm done with that, I'll finish up by sharing some ideas that I've found from ex-users of opioids who have shared these ideas of ways that they've coped in their recovery process, ways that they've found to find healing and getting over the problem. And I will move, with that, I'll finish up by extending an invitation to you guys to move forward and do what you can, even as a single individual in a huge world that we live in, as a single individual, to make a difference, to take a stand and do what you can to make the world a better place and to hopefully put an end to this huge problem that we face. So to move on with the effects, I want to share a little bit about the short-term and long-term effects. Before I move on with those, I don't like beating around the bush, so I want to focus on the biggest problem, the biggest effect that it has, and that is death. It's pretty straightforward, but there are a ton of American lives lost every single day because of this crisis, because of this epidemic. I'll talk a little bit more about the numbers, as I said before, but there are over 100 American lives lost every single day because of the opioid crisis. These are people who are just like me and you, who, we might not even realize it, but there can be people around us, co-workers, even members of the church all around us, just people that we know who are struggling with this. And maybe they're not struggling with it personally, but there's probably people very close to us who have family members or friends or very close people in their lives who are struggling with it too. And it does take a big toll. It has a big effect on them too. So, as I mentioned before, death, that's the biggest problem. There's so many lives being lost and ruined, families torn apart, and people just being devastated by death. And so it's a huge problem. I want to talk a little bit more about the short-term effects. A lot of people who have abused these, studies show that some of the short-term effects that people experience are flu-like symptoms, some nausea, chills, everything, even being in a coma, dizziness, just those kind of smaller things, which you feel right away, immediately, which are very uncomfortable, and nobody likes feeling like that, but those are some of the short-term effects that people experience. Some of the long-term effects are, personally, I think, are the ones that are a little bit more dangerous. These are the things that we don't maybe feel as much in the moment, but long term, they're having a really hard, a big toll. They're taking a big toll on our bodies. And they're the ones that lead to death. And that was organ damage. It's damaging the tissues, different organs, our liver, our kidney, all of our body organs. It's damaging them, and ultimately it leads back to what I said at the beginning, and that was death. So these pills, these opioids, they're taking a huge toll on our bodies. Our bodies are, as humans, our bodies aren't designed to have those harsh chemicals, taking a toll on our bodies. So those are some of the long-term and short-term effects that people experience. I want to talk a little bit about numbers. As I mentioned before, I'm a numbers guy, so once I see things, I can see things put into perspective when I start to see numbers. So I think there's like 30 amazing days throughout the year. 6 of them are like birthday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, 4th of July, so on and so forth. But then 24 of them, if you're like in a normal place of work, employment, it's payday. We get paid bi-weekly, so there's 24 of those throughout the year. I love getting paid. I love working hard, but then I love seeing that paycheck. It's just a great feeling. I always like turning the check around and taking a look at the back at the pay stub, taking a look and seeing where my money's going, where my taxes are going. And it really blew me away when I saw some of as I was doing some research, I saw some numbers that really blew me away. This is the fact that really blew me away. There's $76.5 billion spent annually just in America from tax money towards the opioid crisis. So that can be hospital bills, that can be, paying law enforcement to crack down on this issue, lawyer fees, whatever it may be. $76.5 billion of tax money from you and from me is getting spent towards that. Now, I don't want to talk about taxes or anything or where it should go, but I personally think, just opinion, I think that there's a lot of better places or areas that money could be used rather than, just throwing it away at a problem that we can put a stand to. Some of the other statistics that I found I mentioned it before, there's 113 on average. In 2016, there's 113 lives lost, American lives lost every single day from the opioid crisis. That's a lot of families being torn apart and lives being crushed and devastated. Some other ones are, there was reported that 216 million Americans were abusing opioids. That means 2 out of every 3 Americans that you see in the grocery store, driving down the road, maybe not at church, but you never know, 2 out of 3 people were abusing opioids. That's a huge problem. That really blew me away because you never realize it until you start seeing numbers, and it helps it put it in perspective. The last one I want to talk about is 11 million people admitted to abusing these drugs, these opioids. And that really blows me away because I'm guessing that number is a lot bigger. If only 11 million people abused to breaking the law and admitted to abusing opioids, the number's probably a lot bigger. Because whenever somebody's doing something bad that they know is bad, that's against the law, they're probably not going out and telling, public officials or law enforcement, hey, I'm abusing drugs. They're not going to provide that information just like that. So that number, that 11 million people, Americans abusing the drugs, it's probably a lot higher than that. So that really put it in perspective, of how many people were struggling with this problem. Now, to finish up, I'd like to talk a little bit about ways that we can make a difference. I think that by finding there's a lot of things that we can do, whether it is gym, physical exercise, yoga, religion. There's a lot of things that we can do. So the invitation to finish up, I'd like to invite all of you guys to do what you can as a single individual in the world to move forward and take a stance and put an end to this problem. And I know that as we do so, we'll be able to find a much better way of life. Thank you.